Hey, it's Rick. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm here with CC Designs to create a fun magic slider card for you today. So for our products, we're going to be using the Superstar stamp set. It's an older but goodie. I've already cut out all my little pieces from a pattern paper that I'm using as my background layers. I've cut out the focal image, the frame, the little pull tab, and my piece for the inside, and my little sentiment strip, as well as my little acetate piece. Now for this, I'm stamping on the acetate using some Stays On black ink. I did go back and re-ink that since I touched it with the magnet. Remember, anytime you're stamping on a slick surface, you want an ink that will hold up to that. I did stamp it twice, make sure it was lined up. That's why I'm using the Misty. And I will pull that out and set that to the side. I left the stamp in the same position. This is my focal panel. It's the same size as my window sheet, and I'm gonna stamp that down using some alcohol marker friendly ink. I'm gonna go ahead and stamp my sentiment, hidden sentiment as well, into my little under him. It says super cool. So we'll stamp that. I did stamp it twice, so we had a nice good impression. Again, this is an older set, but a goodie, especially if you have guys in your life that are superhero fans. So we are going to use some our Ohuhu markers to color up the image, and I'm doing his skin tone first, so I'm added my shadow, and I'm going to blend that out with my next lightest color, and then I will go around his little mask and blend that out. So we'll just add our lightest color right there, and got all that done. Now we will continue coloring. So yeah, when you're doing this type of card, you want to make sure that your image in the background, which is going to be the colored one, is the exact same size as your frame. Now you will see in the card at the end that I did, or in the video, I did have to change the frame a little bit because Rick messed up. I totally tore it up while I was putting it together, so I had to go back and recut another frame, and I actually liked the one that I ended up cutting the second time better than the first time. I think it worked better with the little set. So I'm just going to go around and finish coloring up my little image. I'm coloring him with some green shades right now since he is our green little superhero. And we will blend that out. I'm using GY43, GY8, GY5, and GY4. For his little power ring, I am going to give that a little glow around the edge as well in just a second. And we're going to blend that out with the GY5. And this is where I'm going to start pulling in that glow to pull that out around the edge. This is also a good card you could use for St. Patrick's Day, since we're using all of the greens. So we'll just pull all that out. This is also a fun card that if you like an interactive card, this is a great one to do because it's pretty easy. You do have to be careful, like I said, with lining up the stamps with the acetate sheet on the front to make your window and you're getting your slider correctly. So there's little tricks to it, but we'll talk about those in a minute. So we're just going to go ahead and continue coloring up adding our black shades. I just picked some neutral grays for that and went from the darkest down to the next to the lightest, just to add a little bit of color in there. I'm a big comic book fan, so this set was right up my alley, along with the other. There's another set that matches this one, and then there's two more sets, or three, that go with the other comic book company. So you can check those out. I will make sure that the website is linked below in the description, as well as the list of the products that I used from CC Designs down below. So you can always check out the links there. So we're just going to continue coloring our little image. Take your time coloring. It's not, you want to get it right. But I will tell you that this actually popped off more after I started adding my finishing details with the highlights. That's when it really took a whole new life to the image. So don't forget your detail work. So we're just going to continue coloring up his little hair right here with our lightest color. And all of our little coloring is done. So I'm going to come in and add my white gel pen highlights, because once this is down and the window sheet is on top, it's going to be hard to do that. So you want to think ahead and go ahead and add in your little highlights now so that everything is ready to go. So I got him all colored. Now I'm pulling in all my little pieces. I'm going to add a pull to my little tab. And this is just a stamp from my stash that I had that's an interactive die. So I've cut my little tab with something I had from my stash, and just cut it out with the same cardstock or pattern paper. The solid piece, I'm going to stamp pull at the top. You could write that if you wanted to. And I'm going to go ahead and now see my frame is different. You're going to see why I changed that in a minute. So we're going to go ahead and add our pattern paper layer. And yes, this is a St. Patrick's Day pattern paper pad that I'm using, but it had all my green colors in there that I wanted to use, so that's why I chose it. And it's perfect for these types of cards. So we got our little background on there. Now we're going to go ahead and attach this to our card front, which is a standard A2 top folding card. So I'll go ahead and attach that, line that up, and I will make sure that's nice and lined up with our little thin matte layer. I'm going to add my inside piece that just finishes off the inside of the card. It's just a little scrap piece of card or pattern paper that I matted. And so we'll just add that at the bottom. Everything's tied together. Now, I have put sticky adhesive or foam strips on the back of this. And I'm peeling those off. And this is where Rick messed up. I left this in here in particularly. And it's a good thing I added the liquid glue so that I had some wiggle room. I'm going to lay this down, and I notice something's not right. I have stamped him in the wrong direction. So I had to restamp him on I attached it the wrong, I flipped it over by mistake. So I had to cut a whole new frame, which was no biggie. Now we're going to add some thin tearing tape, score tape on the back so we can attach our frame. Now this is what I should have done to begin with. Before I attached my window, I should have done this, where I take the window sheet and I'm going to lay it on top of my image to make sure it's lined up right, and then attached it to the frame. That would have saved me a whole step that I didn't have to do. Now I'm just going to peel those backings off that tearing tape, press it into place, and then I can line this, add my foam strips back on, and create our slider, magic window slider part. So we're just going to take and add some foam strips. You don't have to cover this whole thing up. Now, if you were going to make this a shaker instead, you wouldn't have to do the whole stamping him on the front and adding that. You could just add the foam strips around, add it in your shaker bits, and popped in him on the top of the colored image and been done with it. But I wanted to do something fun and do this little do this little slider card. So I don't have to make sure any of the edges are completely sealed. I can just have that opening at the top where my slider will come in. Now I did have to recut my little slider a little bit because I added foam strips up at the top that were not originally there, so it kind of blocked my slider. So I had to trim that down just a little bit. I just did that off screen so that everything was perfectly slid up and down. It didn't affect anything. So I'm just going to line up the frame. Now you can see how that outline lines up right along with our colored image. And because I added those pieces at the top, it doesn't fit. So I'm going to trim those off and make it slide in. Now you can see me sliding in and out and making sure everything slides perfectly fine. And since I had to cut it down, nothing was showing that wasn't supposed to. I'm going to go ahead and add some adhesive to our little focal image, pop him on our card front, and I will stamp my sentiment onto my little strip of cardstock, and I will stamp that in VersaFine Onyx Black ink. Actually, I think I just stamped it in Tuxedo Black, and that was dark enough for me. But I can't remember. I have everything listed that we used. So we're going to go ahead and add our sentiment strip across our bottom of our card front. And I'm going to, it says, "You're a superstar." Like I said, this is a perfect little card for a masculine card. Super easy to do if you follow the right steps and don't mess up like I did. I did add a few jewels to the card front to give it just a little bit of sparkle, since like it really needs anything extra, but it does for me. So we're going to add some just green jewels from my stash, and I will add those on. I added 3 around the right side of the sentiment, top right, and 2 at the bottom left. Here's a look at the card. I'm going to slide the piece out, and there's our little colored image in there and our secret message. I hope you give this card a try. Here's a closer look at the card, and I will see you guys in the next video. Stay crafty. Bye.